Hello, YouTube. Welcome back. This is Dan, and we are once again going back into Eliza. A lot happened in the last episode, but suffice it to say, Evelyn's having a bit of a time in her life. But, I mean, she has people like Nora, and seems like Ray's pretty cool too. And she has job prospects, but I don't know. Let's see what comes of it, shall we? Really interested to see what goes on and how everything's going to unfold. I mean, there's a lot. It's like a soap opera up in here or something, you know? Time for my next client already. Welcome to Eliza. All right. Who are you? Harriman Gunawan. Okay. Are you a first time
Hello,
Eliza
Harmon. You found the place okay?
Yeah, no trouble at all.
It's been nice since the fog cleared this morning, hasn't it?
Sure. We can dispense with the chit-chat. I'm ready to begin.
All right, down to business then.
Okay. What brings you here today?
First, let me note that I'm a graduate student at the University of Washington.
Sure, okay.
I'm a PhD candidate in literature, English literature. The crux of the matter I've come here to discuss is that I've been having something of a difficult time with one of the other students currently in the program.
Oh.
Before I get to the specifics, let me just first establish something that might be relevant.
Okay.
One thing I know about myself is that I've always had a certain fear of being left out.
Pretty common.
It's a very general feeling and one that's difficult to ascribe to any specific cause in my childhood or my parents, etc. Whatever the case, it might be beneficial to the remedial process to figure out where this feeling originated from. Perhaps you might explore that in this or a future counseling session.
He's really taking charge of his own mental health, which is very admirable. It's very difficult for people to even know where they stand with their own emotions, let alone trying to convey it to somebody else to try to help them.
Sure. I'm prepared to listen to any topic you'd like to discuss.
It's not even that I've been left out, exactly. If I try to think back in my life, I know that I've been afforded a certain share of privilege. But I'm still afflicted with this bothersome notion that I've missed out on friendships, relationships, other opportunities. This is all just a bit of a background to help you understand my current situation with regard to another student in my program.
Is it one you
I hope you're
like?
following all this. I realize now I have no idea how much intelligence you actually possess as a computerized system.
I'm following you. Please continue.
Perfect. So,
Perfect.
her name is Sylvia.
I knew it.
Her writing is incredible. Everything she writes, it's brilliant. She's perceptive, insightful, mordantly funny. Just some of the best writing I've read from anyone at all. And she's a grad student, like me, in the same program. Though we have different advices, so it's not so simple to find the pretext to start a casual conversation. She's also quite attractive on a physical level, so that adds another dimension of complexity to the proceedings. Then there's her friend group, which is very well established. She's with them every day, smiling, laughing. So that further complicates things, since I'm not sure how to approach the group and steer things so that I can engage in a direct conversation with her. I wish I had the bull-headed confidence it would take to simply approach her, but you see, I don't. Listen to me talk. I feel like a schoolboy with my heart aflutter. I didn't think this kind of thing lasted into one's adulthood, but I suppose I know now that it does.
Homeboys in love. Nothing wrong with that, I think. I think what he's feeling is very comfortable. Sorry, not comfortable. Very common. And I think that in general, a lot of people fall into this category here that he has. Like, difficult to talk to the person that he has interest in. And I've not had the... I've not really been the player type, though. I don't know what it's like to be able just to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, I like you, what's up? So, I kind of feel for this guy.
It sounds like you might be anxious about this.
Is it a matter of anxiety? I don't know what I can do. other than muster up the courage somehow. I just need to tell her very simply that I admire her. She's such a good writer. Well, I don't expect you to understand it, of course, but, well, she is. She really is.
Okay, well, you can tell her that you admire her works.
Okay, Harmon. I want you to imagine things going well. What does that look like?
Ideally, we'd start talking, have a wonderful conversation, spend more and more time together, support each other's work, fall in love, have a lot of sex, spend the rest of our lives in the warmth of each other's genius. I realize that may be something of a fanciful notion at this stage. Really, the most I can hope for is to be able to meet her in an open social setting, a party or something. You'll likely ask me why I simply couldn't create such a situation, contrive one, but that seems a little too aggressive for me, and also, I'm also concerned about what she might think of me as a person. She might immediately categorize me as a friend, and while I'm sufficiently with the times to know I would have to accept that, I can't say that I wouldn't be disappointed with such an outcome. Is the risk of rejection enough to stop me from giving it a try? This is what confounds me at the present time.
I think that's common. Fear of rejection is a difficult thing to process for anybody at any age. And yeah, it's just, yeah, love is one of those things that's difficult because you don't know where you stand with the other person until you figure that out. And that's a difficult prospect to try to figure out because you don't know how things are going to go. And that being unknown is very difficult as a person, as someone trying to figure out where to go and what to do.
Why do you believe you are worried about being categorized as a friend?
Well, because it's not what I want. Because it feeds into this image I have of myself as something of an undesirable fellow. I've always been a bit of a non-entity as far as sexual magnetism goes. I'm not saying I deserve or even want to be some kind of Casanova, but most people would like to feel at least somewhat attractive, right? That they can be desired, that they're worth desiring. Well, I very much doubt you would take any of this to heart. You are a computer program, after all. There's no way your makers would allow you to come to that kind of knowledge, would they? If they did, society might be threatened.
I don't know. That's the thing is that everybody has their own personal perception of who they are. But as far as desire and deserving of being desired, that's entirely up to the other person. They are the ones that decide whether or not you're attractive, whether you're desirable, whether you deserve it or not. Well, maybe not the deserving part. Everybody deserves a certain amount of respect, deserves a certain amount of love and appreciation, but it's not up to you whether or not you can be what somebody is looking for, what they are attracted to. That is something that is up to them, and you can't decide that, but you can investigate whether or not you have the possibility of being that. But yeah, you can't just decide for yourself that, I am not worth desiring. I am not a person that is attractive. That's not up to you. That's up to the person that's perceiving you.
Okay, Harmon, I have some recommendations for you. First, I'm going to suggest a set of relaxation and centering exercises for you to do. You'll find them in the Skanda Wellness app on your phone. They may be able to help with your nervousness. Second, I recommend asking your doctor or psychiatrist about litosenal 2. Based on my analysis, this medication might help you feel better.
Yeah, I believe I've heard of that. A beta blocker, is it not? Yeah. Maybe I could take a couple before I try approaching Sylvia.
You will get a reminder to check in with us in a few weeks.
Sure. I have to go. I'll see you later. Bye.
Goodbye.
He's already gone. Well, that dude seemed alright. I mean, oh wow, only 2 stars, bro. I mean, he seemed pretty well adjusted. I guess he just didn't like the session, the experience. Maybe he expected more. Maybe he was unsure of himself. Maybe he was projecting, but I don't know. He seemed pretty with it. He kind of knew where he was, how he stood in in his own day to day, his life, and how he feels about himself. I don't know how much help he needed. Maybe he just needs a friend, really, to help push him along into things. Because again, it seemed like he kind of had things together as far as like his emotions, his perception of how he's feeling, who he is, his level of comfort in his own skin. I don't know. I wasn't sure of the exact reason, but I decided to accept Ray's invitation to help bake cookies. She gave me directions to a house in Wallingford. At first, I was astonished by its size. That's what she said. Then I remembered her saying something about living communally with several roommates. That sounds like it would be nice, assuming everyone got along okay. As I entered the house, I can hear Ray speaking with someone.
No, I don't have them. Yes, I'm sure. No, when you moved out, you took all those with you. I haven't seen them here. No, I'm not going to look right now. I have a guest. No, it's a friend from work. Why do you care about that? I can't have a friend from work over? Give me a break. I just told you I don't have any of that stuff anymore. No, you must have lost it on your own. Stop it. Stop that. Okay, fine. Bye.
Must be an ex.
Evelyn, sorry about that.
It's okay. Who was that, if I can ask?
Oh, just my brother.
Oh,
He used
okay.
to live here, but he was causing a lot of problems, coming home really late and making noise, not doing his share of the chores, and so on.
That's no
We
good.
voted him out last month. Even me. Even though 6 months ago I was begging everyone to let him stay here, promising he'd be good. Oh well.
I'm sorry.
It's
you
fine.
can't control
I'm
others.
just disappointed with him. Again.
Ooh.
I really thought this last time that he'd actually pulled his act together. But he didn't. I wish I could do more for him.
Yeah, I get that. It's difficult because you can't control what other people do, and you know you want what's best for them and you love them, but it's really up to them to make the decisions, to put in the work, to make the effort. And when they don't, it's very disappointing because you really wanted them to be and do better, have a better life, but it almost seems like they are working against you, or they don't appreciate that you want good things for them, or they don't understand that you're looking out for them because they don't feel a certain way. I don't know, it's just, that's pretty common too, because you can't choose who your family is, and that's a thing. Sorry, that seemed pretty depressing, but let's see what these options are. What more can you do? I know the feeling. You don't know him anything. What would Evelyn choose? I don't know much about Evelyn's family, but so I don't know if she knows the feeling. She doesn't seem callous enough to say you don't owe him anything. Maybe she would just be kind of like, say, what more can you do? But seems kind of like an offhanded remark. But I feel like that's the closest we get to what I feel like Evelyn might say.
What more can you do?
I feel bad about it. Some of what he's dealing with is his own fault, sure, but not all of it. He's just not built in a way that's suited for this world. I wish there were better ways we could care for people like him. Instead, he just gets thrown out of every place he lives.
Oh.
His relationship with our parents is really bad, too. They aren't willing to try to understand him, so it all ends up going through me.
I hear you,
That
girl.
must be difficult.
It's all right, really. I handle it like anyone else.
Drinking?
We all have our own problems. Anyway, we don't have to talk about my brother. Thank you so much for coming over. I wanted to say it's been really nice working with you.
Aw.
It's been? Did something happen?
Well, no, but you aren't going to be a proxy forever, are you? I guess I assumed you'd be going back to your job at headquarters at some point.
Well, we haven't decided that. I don't know that Evelyn really wants to, but I feel like that's where the story is leading. I feel like these last two ones are what she would say, because she hasn't decided, but at the same time she seemed really unhappy. But yeah, I guess she's open to going back if that's, what she ends up feeling like is where she needs to be going. But let's just go middle of the road here.
I haven't decided what to do yet.
Oh? So you're going to stay a proxy?
For now, at least. She is a temp. She's not, like, fully hired on.
For the time being, at least.
That's cool, but why? I'm curious. I mean, if a high-level job at headquarters was a possibility for me, I'd do whatever it took to get it. No matter what that job was, it couldn't be more stressful than running 3 counseling centers at the same time.
Well, Ray, you said it yourself. Everybody has their own problems. It might seem like working at headquarters is, a dream job, something that's easier, but everybody has their own issues at work. Everybody thinks the other person's doing an easier job or maybe a harder job, but you don't know what it's like until you're in that role. So, you can't really judge at face value. Some people might look at being a manager running things like these counseling centers. A lot of the work that's in the actual counseling is done by Eliza, so some people may assume that there's no work for a manager to do, but there's a lot, like logistics, making sure that people come in, make sure you have enough people to work proxies, and everybody has their own process to bear, and it's just people trying to compare themselves with each other. It's not healthy for sure.
I'm not sure. I think something about it is good for me right now. As a proxy, I just sit and listen to someone and I don't have to say anything back. I just witness someone's sadness or fear or anger or anything, and I can feel how they feel, sympathize with it. It's a calm feeling, even when the client is worked up. I don't know, maybe it gives me perspective. I'm starting to wonder if I ever really spoke with anyone before, like anyone at all in my life. Were we all just talking past each other? Sorry, this is making no sense.
No, it's making perfect sense.
I get that. But you could also help even more people by working on Eliza itself, right? Not to mention make way more money. Anyone can be a proxy, but you're important. And kind of maybe like a genius. After you told me you used to work for Skanda, I searched online and found some of your papers. They're, well, it's not like I can understand them, but they sure look super impressive to someone like me.
Please don't say that.
Oh, come on. Stop self-deprecating all the time.
Yeah, for real.
Look, I know this stuff seems like not a big deal to you. I get it. I really do. It's easy to undersell your own skills. I've done that my whole life.
Who hasn't?
So take it from me, you don't have to downplay yourself. Take some credit for the amazing work you did.
Yeah,
Seriously.
you go, girl. A message from Rainer. I guess I should respond.
Sorry, Ray. Mind if I reply to this for a second?
Oh, go right ahead. I have stuff to set up in the kitchen anyway.
I think Evelyn was very insightful there. It does feel like sometimes people don't really talk to each other. They kind of just, like she said, talk past each other. Because in general, we kind of just talk about frivolous things that just happen in the day, in the moment, that don't really have any hold over us. And a lot of times, a lot of us just kind of withhold how we're feeling, what our thoughts are. And it feels like we're just hiding parts of ourselves from other people. So we don't really get to know each other as well as we really could or should. And it's making me think that maybe having a computer program isn't so bad because people don't feel like they're talking to another person directly. Taking aside Eliza and all with the proxies, but if you know that you're talking to a computer program that can't judge you, can't put you down, maybe it does make you feel more comfortable to be able to talk about yourself and talk about your feelings and your thoughts, emotions, and maybe that is something that's good that helps people get past some of the hurdles and obstacles that are in their life. Specifically, if it's themselves that's the obstacle. But also I think Ray, even though she's technically the manager, but it seems like she's a cool person, but also that she wants to be a friend She seems like she legitimately cares and wants to see good things for Evelyn. And I think that's great, especially as someone brand new. And for her, Evelyn, it seems that she needs that in this time of her life. She's going through some difficult times, and it seems like she's got a lot of thoughts that are weighing her down, and she needs perspective. She needs to see things from another side, which I think is why she enjoys being a proxy, or is like finding it enlightening at least. Wow. Wow. All right, Rainer says, what did you think of the data center? I'm sure he knew your number from your files, Evelyn. Let's go with the data center. Yes, Eliza as it is now. I don't know what you expected me to see. It's big now, that's for sure. I remember when it used to run on my laptop. What you saw was just one of the server clusters we have dedicated to it. There are 2 more currently operating and another dozen in various stages of development. In total, it processes even more information on a daily basis than anything else we do. I had no idea you'd be using it like this. If I did, I've worried more about optimization. That wouldn't have been necessary. Most of the Eliza servers aren't running the therapy application. So she worked on the therapy application, and these other servers, I guess they must be for data processing. And there's only a specific module or set of servers that perform the actual therapy sessions themselves. Everything else must be like child processes or subroutines that work out everything else that the main part actually performs and uses the information of. What do you mean? Consider the following. Eliza processes human speech from thousands, soon millions of people. All of that is going into its corpus. Much of it is information about life situations and emotional states, taking the form of stories people tell themselves and each other. All right, let me parse that for a bit. So Eliza is talking, and she's going through people speaking about their life and their emotional states, and that's through the process of people telling stories about themselves and of other people. So yeah, it's doing a lot of processing in order to understand all of that. Okay, so where does this lead? At some point, after robust language processing and emotional reasoning, you begin to get something akin to general intelligence. Yeah, because if you can understand other people and you can process it and make sense of that information, that is, to a point, intelligence. Being able to communicate back, in my opinion, would be something that would complete that circle. So human style intelligence, maybe. I think it depends on how much processing and how much understanding goes into it, to the point where you can legitimately come up with another corresponding response, something that makes sense, something logical. Although I guess sometimes people aren't logical. Yes, I would call it human model artificial intelligence. The next step is to take the base provided by Eliza and finally build the one thing that's eluded the field of AI for so long: general intelligence. A system capable not only of understanding commands and carrying out tasks, but reasoning about its world, learning and adapting. A thinking machine on par with human beings, and of course, eventually exceeding them. So he's saying he wants to bring Eliza, or use Eliza as the building block to create actual intelligence, or an intelligence that is above programming. I don't know how many of you know, but computers, they don't really act upon themselves. They act upon the instructions that are given to them when they are created. So when you write a program, you are trying to incorporate as many situations as you can. And like artificial intelligence is just that. It's not actually as smart as some people are led to believe. It's, as the name implies, it's artificial. So he wants to take it one step further to go where it can actually think for itself outside of what the people who created it had thought up for it to do. So he wants it to go to that next level. And then, as his last statement says, past that, even past the ability of humans, which is interesting to say on one side, but also dangerous on the other side. I mean, have you guys seen the movie Terminator? Are you seeing human style intelligence can't come from human beings? People tend to be unreliable and expensive. As I'm sure you know, the human brain is to thinking as the pack animal was to transport, slow and weak, but for centuries was our only choice. Now we're finally developing the equivalent of powered vehicles for thinking on a mass scale. At this point, it's only a matter of time. We're on the cusp of a fundamental shift. The important players here are quietly lining up their bets, positioning themselves to be at the center of this revolution. Luckily, Skanda has an advantage the others don't, and it's thanks to you. Because of Eliza's original purpose as a tool for therapy, its core is built around emotionally driven reasoning. My belief is that emotional reasoning is a key ingredient others in the field have overlooked. He's got a lot of good points there. People are unreliable. You can't be sure that they're going to be consistent. And the way the human brain thinks, at least as far as the processing, how the speed of it is possibly slower than a computer, mostly because with the way that we have computers operate, they make decisive decisions right away without any without thinking opposite, thinking other considerations. It's just this thing happens, this thing goes. This thing happens, this decision is made. Whereas with people, we often think about, did I make the right decision? Is that the right decision? Should I consider the alternatives and stuff like that? And it weighs down our speed of processing. But he's saying that everyone is looking to go this way. And at the time of recording, that does seem to be what we are going through right now. Everyone wants to get into AI, wants to get into machine learning. Right now, like Google's in it, Facebook wants to get into it. I'm sure Amazon wants to get into it. Lots of people are developing this stuff. And I do believe that he's right, that if you want to build something that can emulate or interact with humans, you do have to bring the emotional response or the emotional understanding intelligence to it. And it, being a counseling tool, Eliza does take into account your emotional response. If you ever look on the left side where it's, taking in information and then assigning a negative or a positive value to it, it is understanding to a degree emotion. And I believe that is a key ingredient, like he's saying, to understanding, to intelligence, at least when it comes to humans and interacting with humans. You don't need any of that if you're just doing operations, like, for work. You just know this is what you do in these situations. Here's a couple of considerations, but otherwise you choose this option. In these other considerations, you use these other options. I'm not sure what you're thinking of is possible. I believe it is, but like, I think this last one, it's aspirational. Technology has leaps and bounds, but there's a limit to the speed at which it can occur. You need geniuses like Evelyn, apparently, and it works best if you all work together. But if you're all doing it individually, that limits the growth. It's ambitious, certainly, but we can't afford to progress in small increments. Not with a world like this, not with the competitors we have. How will you know when you have it? I don't even know how you define intelligence. Both of these are good questions, because how do you define when something is intelligent, but also how do you know when it's arrived, when it's gotten to that point? I think that's a more pressing matter, is how will you know when you have it? That's an excellent question, of course. This may sound odd to you, but I'll know I've successfully created a general artificial intelligence when I see it write a poem. Yeah, I agree. A poem. There's a lot that goes into a poem, because poems, they're not like books in that they tell you things, or they have an agenda to make you feel a certain way, think a certain way. Poems, they're left up to interpretation. They can guide a person to feel a certain way, and that might be the intent of the author. But regardless of that fact, a poem is still left up to you to interpret how you feel. And there's a lot of wording and wordplay that goes into it. And if you use certain structure, you have to use proper diction in order to make sure that the syllables match up with that structure. Like, for example, a haiku, or using iambic pentameter, or what have you. There's a lot of structure to certain poems, and that might be challenging, or it might be a way to help the author to convey what they want. But to be able to take all of that and then write something that is both engaging, also emotional, or elicits emotion from the reader, I think that is a very difficult thing to do. And if a machine can do that, I think that is a good measure, in my opinion, of intelligence. Yes, it would have to be a good one, of course. Yeah, it can't just be roses are red, violets are blue. Hey, how are you? How do you do? Okay, I'm going to bed. Good night, Evelyn. All right. Well, let's snoop around Ray's place here. I like that poster. Are they a band or something? I was always bad at keeping up with new music. I think that's a thing a lot of people have trouble with, unless you are specifically in love with music, then you keep up. But if you're not, like, if you don't have like the biggest desire for music, and it's just like you enjoy music, it is difficult to keep up. This house looks so cheerful and cozy. Everyone who lives here must really care about making it an inviting space. Yeah, and isn't that why they kicked out Ray's brother? Ray seems to be a fan of plants. I think I get it. It's nice to have something to care for in a low-key way. Something to nurture. Yeah, Evelyn, that's I mean, that was you with Eliza, you know? Ray returns from the kitchen, her hands caked with flour.
Sorry for abandoning our conversation like that. I just got something I really thought I should answer. It was kind of about what we were discussing earlier. There's someone at Skanda who really wants me to come back to my old job.
Rainer.
Who? It wasn't Rainer, was it?
It was.
Well...
Nail on the head.
No big deal. Just the CEO of Skanda texting you on your personal phone. Evelyn, you try to tell me you're not a big deal, and then Raynor Sai texts you personally at like 9 in the evening.
On your personal
Only
phone.
because he wants something from me.
Still though, that's amazing. What did he say? I mean, you don't have to tell me if you can't. I know how Skanda is about secrets, so I would understand.
He was saying, among other things, he said you could use general artificial intelligence to write poetry.
Is that the kind of stuff he likes to talk about?
I don't know. I haven't had many extended conversations with him. Seemed kind of ridiculous to me.
I don't know if it's totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
Poetry, well, most poetry that isn't free verse has certain patterns, right?
Like I said,
it
yeah.
has form and meter and other elements depending on the type.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think poetry can be whatever, but it doesn't quite work that way.
I agree.
So it's not really that far-fetched to think you could use some kind of software to approach it, or understand it, or maybe even create it.
Damn,
It
Ray.
doesn't strike me as antithetical to the spirit of poetry.
I didn't know you had such developed thoughts about this.
Thank you.
Did you study poetry?
No.
Not specifically. I used to dabble in a few different kinds of arts and ended up learning a few things here and there. I've
Same.
always had a wide range of interests. Of course, that meant I never concentrated on one specific area in
I
school.
feel you, girl. I
Which
feel
didn't
you.
do a lot of good for my career prospects, obviously.
Oof.
If I were smarter,
Yeah.
I probably would have studied something more technical.
I want to tell Ray that kind of choice has very little to do with being smart, but I have the feeling she wouldn't believe
Have you
me.
ever been to a college recruiting fair for engineering and computer science grads? You must have, right? I helped run the Skanda booth for one once, and it blew my mind. They took over the atrium of the building it was in. There were demo stations, free food, Skanda t-shirts and swag. If a candidate seemed interested, they'd talk about flying them out to whatever Skanda office they wanted to visit, just to see it. And all the other tech companies and a bunch of startups I'd never heard of had booths just like it too. I couldn't even imagine being that wanted as a potential employee. Every job I've ever applied for, I've been one among hundreds or thousands.
Same.
So yeah, my parents were probably right. I should have done computer science.
At least now you know Raynor likes poetry. Maybe you could have a conversation with him about it sometime. Then he'd learn who you are.
I doubt we'd have much to talk about. There's a pretty big difference between someone like him studying poetry and someone like me having opinions about it. Sometimes it's better not to cross that line, you know? He's part of a different world.
Ray pauses to regard me for a
Say,
moment.
Evelyn, are you in a relationship? I'm just curious.
Me? No.
Why, are
I
you
wasn't-
interested?
I wasn't doing so well for the past few years. And before that, I just never had the time. It was just research and science and work, and then I woke up one day and I was in my 30s. Even if I wanted to date, I wouldn't know the first thing about how it's supposed to work. I wouldn't even know how to tell if someone were interested in me.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of over relationships myself, like on a conceptual level. Not even in a sad way, like really okay. If someone and I end up getting along, that's great, but I'm honestly okay by myself.
Good for you. Good for you. A lot of people feel like they have to be in a relationship. They're not anybody without being in a relationship, and they define themselves with the relationship. So you being comfortable with who you are, that is very grown up and very mature of you. I'm proud of you, Ray. I think I would like to have a drink with you sometime. You are cool people.
Yeah, that seems nice, actually.
Yeah, I only tried to have normal relationships for so long because I thought it was mandatory.
Yeah, right?
Something expected of me. But now I see where people my age end up, how they live, and I feel lucky. I feel like I escaped. I mean, I think it's fine for others if they want that, don't get me wrong. It's just not for me. I could maybe share my life with someone, but it would have to be platonic. I'm not into, the physical aspect of it. Never have been.
So she's
That's made it
asexual.
tough. I've never found someone who is okay with just like hanging out and that's our relationship. People will say they're okay with it and then it turns out they aren't. It's frustrating.
That's kind of sad. I do feel like having a physical attraction and a physical relationship is very important in a relationship, but I guess that's just me. There are people out there that don't need that, but I feel like if you're going to have a healthy relationship, you should be able to connect on a deeper level than just the physical, because you're not always going to be intertwined in a person in a physical relationship every time you meet, unless you only purely want it to be a physical relationship, in which case you don't really spend time together other than, performing the act. If you actually wanted to spend time or live together, especially into old age, you need to have a deeper connection, something that can be sustained and last. And when the physical portion goes, or if it goes, because I don't know how many people can actually do such a thing at 60, 70 years old. I mean, if you can, hey, more power to you, but not everybody can. And you need something more than that. There are some relationships like that, though. Whatever relationship works for you. I don't know that Evelyn is the same. And it sounds like she hasn't had the chance to try it. And then, but you know what? To each their own. Whatever relationship works for you.
Whatever relationship works for you.
I was brought up with some really strong ideas about, finding a man and starting a family. So it took me a while to understand I could be different.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to escape feeling like it's wrong somehow. I hope we can add features like that to Eliza at some point. Some knowledge and understanding around sexuality and identity and relationships. So people who are different in some way have someone to talk to, someone to help them work through how they feel and maybe point them to some resources.
I think that would be great. I think Eliza could do that. You just need somebody that was understanding and prepared to be able to make these changes and be able to affect those changes. And it does sound like a good idea, because people with the same line of thinking as Ray, they need help too. They're people as well. They have thoughts, feelings, emotions, and they also need help. Sometimes it's especially people like them that need help because they don't have resources.
That sounds like a good idea. I'm not sure how well it could really understand, though.
Even so, just providing a space for people to be listened to can be really valuable,
I agree.
I've seen it with my own eyes. People who get the courage to talk about themselves in a way they never could with another human being. And Eliza is what makes that possible. I know you want to avoid giving credit where it might not be due, but not giving credit to something that deserves it is just as bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I'm sorry I keep coming down on it.
Evelyn, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I think maybe the reason you're so down on Eliza is because you're down on yourself.
I
don't
completely
know what
agree.
happened that made you leave what you had behind, but it must have been hard.
Yeah, I think so. It must be the death of a colleague or coworker. Maybe that guy was someone that Evelyn had interest in. I don't know, and it just scarred her, in her life. Maybe.
Yeah, it was hard. It's like I lost that time.
Are you okay?
People keep asking me that. I really don't know. I'm sorry,
No, don't apologize. Actually, can I suggest something?
Please do.
What's that?
Have you ever gotten counseling yourself?
What, with Eliza? You think I should?
Yeah, I do.
Couldn't hurt.
You've been the proxy, but maybe you could try being the client sometime. It would be educational, at least.
That's true.
Isn't that what you were doing? Testing your product in the real world?
To an extent.
Maybe.
Just something to consider.
Yeah, I think so. Ray takes a breath and smiles.
Speaking of therapeutic activities, it's time to do some baking. I've got the dough all set out downstairs. We're going to do 3 batches tonight, 3 different kinds.
3 kinds? You're really outdoing yourself, Ray.
Nah, this is nothing. Oh, I have a favor to ask, by the way.
And...
Next time you talk to Rainer, ask him what his favorite type of cookie is.
She really is a nice person. Chapter 4. It's such a nice day. When did it get so warm? I thought it was still winter. There's a breeze from over the water, making the leaves rustle gently. Everything smells nice. Why haven't I been taking advantage of this beautiful day? I should be out here, walking along the waterfront. There is calm and peace and contentedness. Now I see how special this is. I think it wasn't always this way, but it's hard to tell. I know I was having problems at one point, but that was so long ago. When was that? I can't remember. This moment in time seems to stretch to infinity. It has always existed. It will always exist. Unchanging. Perfect. The surface of that lake is such a brilliant blue. A blue I could lose myself in. Forever. Blue.
Well, what do you think?
It was nice. It was like I could close my eyes and feel myself in another place.
Oh.
But I didn't completely lose awareness of the real world. It was more like a mental state that I was
It
experiencing.
was his prototype.
Remarkable technology, isn't it? I've had others who tried it tell me it's akin to a state of higher consciousness. Aware but totally serene, totally peaceful.
Soren retrieves a bottle of whiskey from a liquor cabinet and
Here's
serves
a thought
himself.
experiment for you. Say there was a certain medical procedure that could remove your suffering. No side effects, no cost, just an operation that would make you permanently happy. Would you get it? You have these philosopher types arguing you shouldn't do that because sadness and suffering are part of what it means to be human. Or that the happiness you'd experience isn't real, so it doesn't count somehow. What a load of bullshit. If there was something effective at taking my pain away, and otherwise harmless, I would take it immediately. I refuse to believe that being alive means having to suffer.
His voice is getting so ragged. How many drinks did he have before I came over?
Oh, forgive me, I forgot to ask. Would you like some scotch as well?
Jeez, dude. What kind of a host are you? Not even bothering to ask. You're just drunk. You know, but on that subject, as far as the pain and suffering, you know, that having to suffer is not good. But at the same time, the suffering or the pain that you feel does make you appreciate the things that you do have and hopefully make it so that you don't take them for granted. I feel like maybe in, like, you know, the Netflix series Black Mirror, it seems that when you take away the things that inhibit people, it seems to make it so that they become used to and adjusted to the good things, and they take that for granted and they keep searching for bigger and better. And I mean, to a degree, is that a good thing? I don't know. That sounds like a philosophical question to me, but although I don't enjoy and I don't like pain, same as the next person, I don't know that taking it away in such a frivolous way as, you know, what he's doing is the right call. I don't know. What is your opinion of that? I'm interested to hear. If you're watching this, please comment down. So I'd like to hear it. You heard my opinion. It's only fair to do the same. But now that we are in a new chapter, I think now's a good place to stop. But yeah, it is a lot of thoughts. Oh, well, I suppose I have a lot of thoughts about this game and some of the topics that it brings up. I hope that you are taking a lot of it in or having your own thoughts and opinions as well. It's a very thought-provoking game. And I think that sometimes people need to think about things like this. Anyways, I hope that you'll come back and join me for the next one. And we'll see where Evelyn goes, whether she decides to work with Soren or Rainer or what. We'll see where it goes. And until then, bye.